So I'll start out with the first question going to Mindy, and based upon your experience and how you forecasted products in the past, what are the alternatives and what are some of the solutions related to introducing new products?
Okay, well, I've been fortunate to work for a few great brands and also in multiple channels with a variety of demographic segments, both economically and also who the target customer was. Some of these brands have been more classic in styling, and others higher in fashion that certainly needs to be changed in the fashion quotient more often. And also, my experiences have been involved with different promotional strategies, whether it's high-low, whether it's everyday low, and even most recently with Calypso, a brand that's actually selling more of their product at regular price. And they all seem to have a little bit different product development calendar and the timelines in which they commit. If you really think about this forecasting process, it really is a bit of art and science, not only how you forecast, but really the entire product development process. One, what is your history? And number two, what does your gut think? And I think that's the part that has to get adjusted a bit over time. Many of us who started in the retail business several years ago would typically go, you're smiling, Richard, because we're smiling, we all started going to develop product a year out. We would go, we would have plans, we would conceptualize it, we would look at the history, and then we would make those decisions. But many times the trends move on. We were too late, we would take more markdowns and it hit our margins. If you think today, there are many techniques that you can use to make better decisions on what the consumer wants. One, you still probably, in most brands, are starting a year out when you're conceptualizing the ideas of what you're going to do for the following year. But the difference is you're putting the assortment together, you're pretty clear on what your key items are, but you have the ability to place much closer to need. And in some brands, it may be 6 months, in other brands, it may be 3 to 4 months that they're placing their units. Another technique is to really develop key partnerships with the key suppliers to position fabric so that you can not only adjust style quantities, but you can also even change styles once you get an early read. And I do think many people are still trying to test. I think some brands do it better than others. And you can test in stores or you can test online to get a read and then go back to a timeline of when you have to commit. And there's certainly a variety of customer focus groups that were brought up, but that can be costly. And I think when you are finessing your assortment and you're deciding what are the big items that you know you want to have, and then there's a tier of products that I usually look at, no matter what base the customer is, what I call the fashion basics or the next big one, and then you complement with some fashion, and then, you know, the high top on the end that you buy less quantity of. But in my mind, the key is to finding out what is that new next fashion basic, and how do you really go about doing that? Because as you mentioned, if you can buy more of that one, in goes your season. In goes your season. And that kind of brings it back to where we are today with First Insight, as I've gotten to know them over the couple of years and seeing what role they could play in this last piece. Because, you know, a merchant thinks they know it all and they want to make their decision. But if you're a really smart merchant, you're going to get some help when you can. And Insight has created the algorithms that allows you to improve your track record of deciding what's the 1, 2, 3. And really to figure out what that is for that key item that's going to make your season is critical. And they can also help you figure out what price, you know, what's the optimum price. I think many times out there we're promoting, and we may not even need to go as low as what we're doing to get through the season, and it just becomes a cycle. And then the next big one is how do you buy each item? So I think that, to me, is the interesting part that they can provide.
Great. Thanks, Mindy.